The self-assessment process was the real goal of the program, not accreditation. What we wanted was a mechanism to put into play that allowed a fire organization to pull itself up by its own bootstraps. Accreditation is a reward for performance, but the performance is self-assessment. Sometimes very mighty ideas get started with very humble beginnings. I think what the ICMA, specifically Bill Hansel from the ICMA, and a guy named Jerry Hootmer were looking for, was a better means of evaluating the quality of fire protection services. The quality control movement was underway. W. Edwards Deming was being touted as the guru of quality management and so forth. And so the ICMA basically was looking at all of its services, not just fire, but all of its types of services. And this was just another avenue to pursue quality control. We need to respond to this this point of view that Mr. Hansel was portraying about having a better way of evaluating the fire services. And so Ben, a good delegator as he was, looks down the table. I'm the second VP. I'm the new kid on the block. And so he said, how about you taking that on? The very first meeting, quote unquote, if you call it a meeting, that was held about accreditation was conducted in a, I'd be careful not to say a bar per se, but a food establishment, maybe a more appropriate designation, where we had a bunch of cocktail napkins and laid out on the table. And there was guys like Bill Killen and Charlie Rule and Dr. Leonard Marks and myself and Tom Hawkins sitting around the table with cocktail napkins drawing sketches about how we think this concept ought to work. We then prepared a staff report and came back and said this is a project that's relevant, it's meaningful, and the fire service would benefit from it. And it was voted on by the board of directors and voted to move ahead with it. So it was actually a vote by the entire board of directors of the IFC that put it in place. Quite frankly, I don't think we would have been as successful as we were if it hadn't have been for that strong support from the IFC staff. But as the model began to develop, more and more people started getting involved. And among the earlier people who joined us was Cortez Lawrence, who was in Alabama at the time, Ray Picard, Martell Thompson, Chief McDonald from Los Alamos, New Mexico, etc. Randy Brugman eventually joined the committee and became an integral part of the testing process. I used to characterize the alpha test as inviting a bunch of people over to come look in your closets and find out where all the dust bunnies were. The beta test was an expansion of that. The beta test, we went back and did the same group all over again, but we added a few more to the inventory. If I were to characterize what was special about those departments, I would say that it was the fact that they were on the bleeding edge of change. Every one of them was a department that was willing to take a long, hard look at themselves and to be critical of themselves at a time when it was far easier for them to just conform with traditional ways of doing things. The DoD involvement was probably one of the best examples I can give of total commitment to the process at the very outset. And Bill Killen took a great risk in adopting the self-assessment model and applying it to DoD facilities. Originally, the 10 categories came from a brainstorming session about how to categorize and classify the operations of a fire department. One time, there were only 4 categories. And then we said, well, that's cramming too much stuff into too few categories. So 10 became the magic number. It got to be sort of a semi-joke about the fact that 10 categories you can define on 2 hands. When I use the word task force, I'm being very specific there because the task force was who created the process before it became a nonprofit corporation. We reversed the acronym CFAI, and that's where the name came from. There's the International Association of Fire Chiefs and the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. It was the IAFC's acronym in reverse. What are my thoughts about what's gone on over the last 20 years? Nothing but pure satisfaction. It's kind of a classic example of an idea is vulnerable when it's young. It's no longer an idea that could go away just because somebody doesn't like it. It's an idea who's proven over time that it had value to the fire service and is contributing to the betterment of the fire service every day. All you got to take a look at today is how many departments have gone through the self-assessment and achieved accreditation, and moreover, how many individuals have gone through self-assessment of themselves and are now credentialed fire officers. What I really believe is not out there that I wish is more of an understanding in society about the role of the fire service. It took a long time to create, it took a long time to support it, and it should have a long and profitable future. The process of change is going to influence the accreditation model just like it influences everything else. The metaphor that I often use is how long does it take for people to forget the reason we do things? The definition of that is called tradition. What I'm hoping will occur is that people will continue to respect the core values of self-assessment. What I'm probably proudest of is the fact that it's a process that has got credibility. You know, a lot of times you start things in the fire service and it'll last as long as you're the chief. But once you're no longer the chief, things change. And what I'm extremely pleased with is the fact that Commission on Fire Accreditation International is a symbol of quality in the fire service today. I believe it's going to grow even greater in the future, and the degree to which it's accepted and adopted by fire departments, I think communities are going to have better fire protection because of it. You know, using the Star Trek thing about live long and prosper, well, I'm hoping that accreditation will be something that fire service people are talking about 100 years from today.